Test, test, test. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Allison. This is AllisonKnowz. We're on a little bit early. Because um, I made a boo-boo. It's supposed to actually end at 5, not start at 5, but that's okay. A couple of things I want to go over. The fact that we're in holiday season and a lot of people are in a mind space where this is not their happy time, this is not their feel good time, and we have to be mindful of that. Some people will ask for support, some won't. Those that don't ask for support, well, just be alert and be aware of it. I am probably going to be accused of mumbling a lot and saying a lot, but be that as it may, hopefully I can get the point across. We're going to be here for a couple of minutes. We're not going to be here for a long time because it's the inaugural show. So it's the beginning of hopefully something that I eventually will become comfortable doing. Over the next few weeks. I hope to do about 51 videos in order to finally, eventually get comfortable. I am an immigrant. I am a woman, obviously. I am ethnically mixed, and I am a United States Army veteran with PTSD and MST, and I am a business owner. What's the point of that? The point of that is I, as an individual, embrace about 5 out of the multitude of umbrellas for marginalized people. And that is unfortunate. However, because of these past elections, a lot of people that you kind of give a little bit of allowance to have shown exactly where their loyalties and their beliefs and their wants and their particular philosophies lie. And because of that, it has impacted families, it has impacted business relationships, it has impacted religious beliefs. Be that as it may, the one thing I can honestly say without concern, worry, or second guessing, all of us are the same. We're exactly the same because, very simply put, even though your political beliefs may have divided your families, have divided your business relationships, have divided your community, until it becomes personal, that's the only time it will become relevant. And unfortunately, that may be the thing that finally shows up, shows out, and shows off exactly where we all are when that impact happens. Even though that is a possibility, it's not a definite thing that could happen. Why is that? The world could end tomorrow, then it would be moot, wouldn't it? Or there could be a seismic shift that changes everything. And I mean everything, things that we haven't thought of, things that we haven't even put into the equation. However, with that in mind, we still have to do what we always do, which is one foot before the other moving forward. This will definitely spotlight people who matter. It will definitely spotlight people who treat you like you don't matter. And it will definitely spotlight people who are aware just of how much their impact is an impact. And in doing so, we we will see how far and how high the cream rises, if you will. So after my mumblings there are a couple of things I want to discuss. My wife, Stacy, is experiencing a good year this year. She is epileptic and she has been on the receiving end of dramatic, traumatic, and seismic things as it relates to dealing with a specific seizure, my S is today, seizure disorder. Now, as the person that is predominantly her caregiver, what I have noticed is when she has an event, there's a lapse of time, there's a lapse of memories. Um, she is unconscious and she is extremely, extremely petrified because of the gaps in her memory and quite honestly, the way she feels after and the long recovery time that it takes. This is a part of the reason why I started this podcast, this channel, this platform. It may solve a problem, it may help someone, it may cause conversation, or it may do none of those things. However, I need an outlet. I need some place to put how I feel, the helplessness, the inability to remove this from her. And because of that, this is where I am doing it. Why? Well, what does it matter? Because if someone out there sees this and realizes they're not by themselves or they're not alone, either as being the person that gives care and the person that receives care, then they can actually see that there may be an outlet. And there may not be anyone that sees this. It is in place so that I can get a semblance of peace and a semblance of lighter shoulders. I do not wish this on anyone. A medical condition of any kind has the capacity to, like a parasite, suck the actual life out of your home, your heart, your relationship, your family. If you are not made of sterner stuff, you will definitely find out if you are made of sterner stuff. And life itself is hard. To add this to make it complex and complicated is bad because I don't necessarily, one thing I do realize is that I don't care if I lose everything, but I do care if I lose her, and I do care if we lose each other because that is my balance. And she tells me I'm her balance, and I believe her. But the process and the events that have occurred have actually showed us where we have cracks in our marriage, but they are actually fixed and fixable cracks in our marriage. So And it's good because it allows us to breathe through things. It allows us to have a place where we can actually relieve and release some things. And that is a good thing. So, in addition to that, I will say this part. I am so glad that for the most part it's behind us, because now we can stop, take a breather, and actually turn around and look back and see just how far she has come and just how far we have come in this process. Let's start with discussing the method of diagnosing this and the medicines used. Those things are really, they can't be one size fits all. It has to be the individual assessed and assessment, because it is not the kind of thing that you can go out and say, oh, I wear a size 7.5 and that's what I'm going to be wearing. No, you have to look at the person, look at the circumstances, and then I think draw your conclusions then. We went through 11 neurologists, and we had one that was mostly homeopathic, and we had another one that specifically, without quabble or wobble or even a grievance aspect, said that she was faking it. And she's there convulsing. And my assessment of the whole thing is, I can see how doctors that have been practicing as long as they have can be so far from, to the point that they've become detached in their ability to assess, to get to, and to see their patient as a person, an individual, and without a case of, you know, just someone that's there that happens to be sick and that happens to fall in their specialty and that happens to be in their field of what's supposed to be their expertise. But I beg to differ. The other thing that I observed is nurses are a special breed of people. Nurses are extremely unique. And the nurses that helped her were far more in tuned, far more connected, and far more willing to care for her than some of the doctors that we experienced. As we went through the juggernaut of hospitals, because we went to well, actually, we went to 3 of the major ones where we live. And I will say this, my mom has a phrase that she hearkens all the time whenever she gets exasperated, irritated, or pissed off by the medical establishment. She always says it. It was one of the first things she said that she learned when she was a nurse. Doctors differ, patients die. Stacy's heart stopped 3 times. I had to do CPR twice. So I didn't, I will say this, I did not like the fact that things got so out of hand. And I didn't like the fact that it took them as long for them to actually realize, recognize, and treat the disorder and treat the patient. But however, this is not all doom and gloom. No, it's definitely a learning process. And as we went through her medical treatment, as we went through her need for Western medicine and Western care, we came across a very good friend of mine whose son is a doctor of Chinese medicine. And he gave Stacy a very good path to follow. And she wasn't able to commit to it fully as she wanted to, but she's getting there. And she's getting there because this did not happen overnight. And this did not happen in a vacuum. So it's not going to be in a vacuum to solve, and it's not going to be something that goes like that. So it was methodical, it was repetitious, it was one thing at a time, and it was long. 40 months is a long time. And 40 months going to the hospital at least once or twice per month is something that it was not. I think, to be honest with you, I think if we knew ahead of time that this was possible, oh boy, it would have been so much worse. So I think being, for lack of a better descriptive, thrown into the deep end of the pool of the complexity of epileptic, non-epileptic, seizures, and seizure disorders that run the gamut, that present differently, that are the kinds of things that you can only react to, you can't prepare for, is something that is definitely, I think, likened to getting stitches without getting lidocaine or getting some sort of numbing agent, because you have to have a sort of a barrier there that helps you deal with the intensity of the emotional conflict, disruption, and pressure that all of that comes under. And I have a mom that's here with me that is older. She is in her 80s. And I now realize why her generation was responsible for a lot of the world shifting, the lot of the world showing its strength, showing its diversity through protest, through power, through collective civil disruption. The woman is strong. And a lot of her strength she shared with me in order to get through this, because there were times that Stacy would have an event that would take her to the hospital twice in a month. Sometimes she would stay for days because they could not figure out what her triggers were, what was causing it, what made it happen the way it did, why it was not stopping, all sorts of things. And through that time, too, we had to deal with issues with COVID and how that factored into her health and what it triggered and what it suppressed and how it threw off her medicine. And let me just say, this time last year was the last time that she had a full workup, and it was done at Shands. And Shands, shout out to Shands. Shands is remarkable. At least the doctors in neurology science is remarkable. I learned a lot, and it's interesting how simple a statement along these lines. We see you, we see exactly what's going on. Our machines have shown us some of what we need to see, but we also are fully aware and cognizant that we're not going to see and find everything. My dogs are upset. So it is something that we had to experience to bring us out on this end. And the reason I'm even going through this process this way is to let you know, we're going to have an interview with Stacy. We're going to sit and talk with her. I wanted to do so on this live, but we're not going to be able to do that because she is on a phone call. She's talking to her pups, and he's checking on her and making sure she's okay. But she's doing very well, and she is my special. And I know the description said politics and women's health, and I focused on her. It was the inaugural, the very first one, and we will move a little bit better. There will be a little bit better structure. There will be an actual um, microphone. I don't think I need it, but that's what it's there. I will go ahead and I will get ahead and I will get things done. And then we will come back to do the interview. Are you ready to do the interview? Just sit over there because you don't want to be on camera, do you?
No.
I guess we'll chat with Stacy for about 10 minutes, and then I will release everyone. So it is now 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to anyone that has hopped on board to see this. My name is Allison. This is AllisonKnowz. It's my podcast. And why did I start a podcast? Because I wanted to. And why should it matter to you? Not really. You can either watch it or don't. Makes me no never mind. There are 8 billion people on this earth. Somebody's going to watch it. And to be honest with you, it's really for me to get things off my chest, off my shoulders, off my brain, and share my opinion discriminatorily, because in order for you to see what my opinion is, you have to subscribe to this channel. So like, subscribe, and share, because it's in my best interest. And to be honest with you, we're all going to need some sort of income that works. So if you don't want me to have this show or do this show, then donate $100 to have me stop doing it. But if you want me to do this show, $1 is great. So there you go. I want to introduce you to, and she's going to be off screen, so you're going to see me. I want to introduce you to my wife, the woman that I have known for 16 years. It's been 16 years.
It's been longer than that.
It's been longer than 16 years. See, this is why I just do what I do. So I have known her. How long has it been if it's not 16 years?
Almost 20.
It's almost 20 years. That's depressing. It's almost 20 years. It's depressing because time has gone by so quickly. It really has. We met when I was what, 36? Is that when we met?
2006.
So it's 18 years.
Yeah.
So it's 18 years. Cripey. Anyway, quick backstory. I'm Jamaican, and I came here, joined the military, had a wonderful time. I still have friends of mine that are from that chapter of my life that I still correspond with. And I got lucky because out of 335 million people in this country, we met, and on all things, or actually, we met on what? MySpace. We met on MySpace. Can you imagine that? That is as funny as it gets. Anyhow, I'd like to introduce you to Stacy, my wife. Say hi.
Hi.
I hope you all heard that. She speaks softly, and our dog is whining because he wants her attention. So we're gonna do this quick. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what you remember of any of your incidents? How you feel knowing that you're epileptic and what causes it?
Sure.
Um, you know, your perspective. You have the floor. Go ahead.
My perspective. What do you want to know? Ask me some questions.
I ask you questions. Do you have auras?
Yes.
Can you tell them what auras are?
Auras, everyone's different. For me, I have auras. Sometimes I feel like I'm outside of my body. Sometimes I feel like I got vertigo, but it's not vertigo. Like I'm drunk, but I'm not drunk. It's kind of hard to explain. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a tunnel. I have flashing lights like strobe lights bother me. Headaches. I get severe headaches like migraines and get clusters, and that causes me to have seizures. But the auras are, I feel outside of my body, and sometimes I don't feel myself. I just feel weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like truly just not myself.
Can you combat that? Can you? Is there anything that you can do to prevent that from happening?
With the auras, no.
How does that make you feel, though?
Out of, like, I don't have any control.
Wow. And how you deal with that? Do you deal with that?
I try to, but it's like I have no control. There's
Okay.
it's almost, but then I get anxiety because I don't have any control.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just have to wait for it because I know it's coming.
Okay. But at least you know it's coming, so you at least have...
Sometimes I don't know it's coming. A seizure comes on and I don't have an aura.
I can
and it just
attest to
comes
that.
on.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that. But you're in a good space now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You're in a good space now. How's your head? How is your because one of the things I remember you talk to me about and you tell me and you share with me is that you actually have foggy head.
Yes.
Was it because you were on Keppra or was it because of just the episodes?
Well, the medicine that I'm on, one of the side effects of the medicine that I'm on, unfortunately, gives you a fog head.
Foggy brain.
Foggy brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes
interesting medical term, isn't it?
Foggy brain. Or it just makes you just feel, kind of not here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Well, I'm here, but just.
Really. He wants your attention.
I know.
He's keeping it light, but that's okay. But go ahead.
But it just, you kind of like, I'm not my bubbly self sometimes.
True.
So I'm a very bubbly, outgoing.
Yes, you are.
Person.
You're effervescent.
So sometimes I just don't feel myself.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
On the medicine.
That particular feeling. Follow-up question to that. That particular feeling when you feel not yourself. Let's go in increments of years since it's been as long as it's been. This entire year, how have you felt this year, 2024?
Well, I think now that they have me on the correct, well, I wouldn't say correct, but
working medicine. The working medicine, the
right medicine for me that's working right now, I feel a lot better.
That's good.
The medicine that they had me on before, one, it wasn't working, and two, it was making me very ill and making me have more seizures than I should have been having.
Right. Right.
So even though I'm still having seizures, it's not as many or back to back to back that I was having.
Well, woman's health is not just physical health or emotional health, it's also mental health. How how is your mental health? How do you feel mentally?
I think my mental health, when I was having all those seizures and I was in the hospital, it makes you depressed because when you have doctors saying that you are faking it
Mhm.
or you and giving you negative responses and are mean and hateful, and yes, it's it's awful, but their doctors are rude and it's like they just
Oh, they can be. Mhm.
and so it's frustrating because you have no control and you're in the hospital all the time, and so it breaks down your mental health.
Mhm.
And once they got me on the right medication and I started feeling better and I started doing better, my mental health got better.
Good.
But you have to get the right doctor and the right team behind you in order to get better, for your mental health to get better.
Okay. I know that, but it's good that they know that because from my standpoint as your caregiver, I would say that percentage wise, out of 100% um, awareness, you whenever you had an event, whenever you had an episode, however it presented, however it happened, however it occurred, I would say you had maybe 5% of clarity at the time. And I, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not even quite sure how I would measure it. I think being able to be there for almost 100% of your seizure activity helped me to see how different it happens and um, how people dealt with it. Because we one of the things, you do me a favor, would you let him out?
Yes.
And then as you let him out, I will go ahead and fill in here for a little bit. What I wanted to share is one of the incidents that she had with having a seizure. We were in the hospital and she was in bed. She was still groggy. She was still not feeling herself. They call that particular feeling after she has had a seizure, they call it postlictal. So she was in bed, she wasn't feeling herself, and the nurse came in. Now, this is a male nurse. This has nothing to do with his gender, but I just, for clarification, just had to say it was a male nurse. He comes in to administer her medicine. And now that I'm further away from when this happened, I can have a much better um, a more adult response to the action. But to say that I was displeased is an understatement. She's in the bed. She is laying in the bed. He is getting ready to give her her medicine at the time. Now, with hospitals, I don't know if you're all familiar, but let's just say for this conversation, you're not. When you're in the hospital, they give you a medical band, and that medical band is your information. As also, it has either a QR code or a barcode on it that gives them confirmation that they are administering the right medicine to the person, and it also does inventory as to what was taken to be given to the patient. Capiche? So he comes to do that, and I said to them, and I said to him, because I'm right at the bedside, because I have to stay with her on this very uncomfortable bed. But I digress. So they come to give her the medicine, and he's getting ready to scan her. Now, her wrist, she's like this on the bed because the IV is in, so it's fully extended. So the same hand that the IV is on is the hand that the barcode is on. I have said this to them multiple times, which is do not scan her barcode before her because the flickering of the light will trigger a seizure. I think it's a practical, simple, understanding fact, but people work in the capacity they're paid. So he comes in and he reaches over, and before I could say to him again, don't scan it because she's going to have, he does that. Now, what is interesting is I am sitting there, I have her recorded because she and her team want to see what her seizures look like. So I had my phone up recording anyway because I was talking to her because one of the things her doctor says when she has a seizure, see if she is coherent or how long it takes for her to become not coherent and it falls off track, if you will, and it goes on into a full-blown convulsion of what looks like a grand mal seizure. So I go ahead and just as he flickers the scanner, I'm telling him, don't, too late. So I have it recorded. And the dogs are happy. The interesting thing about this particular episode or scenario is he ignores my directive saying, do not scan her code. So do not scan the code so close to her face, or at least let me cover her eyes before you do it. Didn't have an opportunity to do any of that. And because of that, she had a seizure. But here's the thing. The flickering of that light caused her to have an episode. Instead of him doing, I'll say it popped in my head, so I'll say it, his nurse thing, what he did was he leaves the room. So allow that to sink in for a second. So I am the only one in the room with my wife who is having a full-blown convulsion because he has now triggered it because of the flashing light of his scanner. And yes, he leaves the room and closes the door. Forgot that part. So he leaves the room, he closes the door. I'm still recording. I get up, I press the button to call the nurse. It takes them a count of, I think, 45 seconds to answer. Now, how do I know? Again, remember I said I recorded it. My cell phone is still on the desk recording Stacy as she's convulsing, and I am doing what I can in order to make sure she's not banging herself into the bed and she's not banging herself onto anything. I'm trying to keep her limbs from hitting anything. So I go ahead and I push the button again, and they still haven't come. So now what do? I push the stroke button, which gets rapid response into the room. So sure enough, they all turn up. And then guess who comes up with them? Our nurse that left and closed the door to the room. So they come in, they see that she's having a seizure and so on and so forth. They go ahead and they administer Ativan for her. And I told them what it was. But this neurologists all say the same thing. And well, neurologists that have been out of school longer seem to say the same thing with regard to her, which I find fascinating because my logical mind thinks this way. Cause and effect brings a result. whatever causes it, how it affects itself, and then the results will show you either A, how it starts, how it can be treated, or what the problem is. But somehow you'll have your answer in the mix of everything that happens. And they come in, and I'm not gonna use profanity, but I bleep you not. The first thing out of the administrator's mouth is, "You cannot record in here." And I looked at her and I said, "Really? I'm recording anyway because I was recording before this started anyhow. And the fact that you're in here, I'm not recording you or your staff, I'm recording my wife." Why? Because her neurology team told me to. So we finally get past that nonsense. All these people are in there. They're all the nurses again, the other female nurses, the nurses. These are nurses that some of them actually got to know Stace, got to know her because of how often she was in the hospital and what was going on. A few of them were a little bit perturbed. Okay, fine, very perturbed because they could not understand why she was not being diagnosed, treated, and helped. Why was she always coming back because of the same thing? And they saw her convulsions, they saw her seizures, they have seen exactly what cause and effect has happened. So the administrator comes in and she says, about the recording and whatnot, and I won't even lie, I was not the nicest person. I basically told her to go kiss her ass, go away. So she leaves, and I am looking now for the CMO, which is the chief medical officer. And I called his office. I left a message that was not too nice a message. And my favorite person turns up in Stacy's room after the effect: risk management. Now, risk management comes down, and risk management is trying to be as diplomatic and and kind as they should be. I could care less, because why? I'm sitting there helplessly watching my wife have a seizure because of someone else's careless action, and that's not being addressed. That's not even being asked. That's not even being followed up with. Because what are they doing? They're covering his ass because of his ineptitude and his mediocrity. I couldn't be bothered. So long and short of it, nothing got done. Nothing was solved about it. But I'm getting my revenge because I'm writing a book, and I will be able to sell that, and that will help others, because my question always comes back to one simple thing: what if she was in the hospital by herself? And the last time that she was in the hospital by herself because of COVID, because at that time they wouldn't let me stay with her, she had a convulsion so severely that she fell out of the bed into the bedside commode, which was full. And they claimed that she got up to go to the bathroom. When Stacy is seizure active, her disorienting thoughts, she cannot stand up straight by herself, much less get out of a bed with guardrails up to get out and go to the bathroom, which is about 5 feet away from the bed. Nope, not going to happen. But I let them have that lie because that was a lie. And I am a believer that everything will come to light with or without my help. I believe that. But I digress. So after that incident, they finally calmed her seizures down. And when she said earlier about certain medicines that were a trigger instead of a help, that is where a lot of the discovery happened. So we spent maybe over the last 24, well, earliest 24 months focused on cause, the whys and the wherefores, the how comes, and the what needs to be done. And one thing I'll tell you, it didn't help her at all being a two percenter. And a two percenter is the kind of person that has a very Certain medicines will work, certain medicines will not work. Certain things will happen that if you look at the side effects, there's some side effects that they'll tell you, oh, it only happens in 1%, happens in her. She's the 1%. And it's kind of compounding the scariness of it. But anyway, she's back because the dogs have finally calmed down. So now we can finish the conversation from her perspective. And my question, in order to get you thinking, is an incident that happened earlier on. I believe it was in 2021, and this was when I said they wouldn't. The hospital did not want us did not want me staying with her, so my mother and I came home after visiting hours, and I remember it clearly. Stacy called me, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know how she did it, but she's demonstrated that particular behavior 3 times altogether. And what I'm referring to is she called me, and I remember the time. It was 11:19. She called me and she said to me, "You're my advocate. You need to get up here as soon as possible. I don't feel good. I think I had a seizure and I smell like piss." And she hangs up the phone. She hangs up the phone. So my mother and I, at the time, we lived um, about 6 minutes from the hospital. So we go up to the hospital, and I have to go through the emergency room to the floor she's on. And the emergency room has to call up to the floor to get permission. So, in order to what I call measure penises, the nurse at the time, and I remember her name and I know her face because I've seen her since, and she has had the misfortune of dealing with my easiness since. Yeah. Anyhow, she says to the emergency representative, only one of them can come up. So now, I mean, my mom is over 80 years old. So and mom was like, being who she is, mom says, no, you go. So I go upstairs and I see my wife. Yes, she is they have her in the bed, and the side rails are up. And the nurse is telling me that she got up to go to the bathroom. And I said, well, if she got up to go to the bathroom, how is it that she was on the floor? Weren't you supposed to be watching her? And wasn't the bed supposed to be on? And they were like, no. They couldn't quite give me an answer. So I asked my other question. I said, well, if someone was watching her, why didn't they help her to use the bathroom, because she has a bedside commode? And why does she smell like urine if the bedside commode was not used and it wasn't emptied? So they really could not give me, well, I wouldn't say they, she really could not give me an answer. So visiting hours starts from 8 to 8. So I had to return that following morning. When I returned that following morning, the hospital doctor that was there was, to say pissed, I don't think it comes remotely close to how she was. She wasn't pissed. She was livid. And she said, not only was I allowed to stay with her as long as Stacy was in the hospital for, she said, someone has to always have eyes on her because she is seizure active. And the fact that they weren't there, and she said it, she said, the fact that you weren't there to see and to take care of her is very, very disconcerting. But what I will say is within her medical records, Stacy's medical records that we have, and we have about 2,000 pages, babe.
Oh, probably more than that.
Well, but it's because of that we have.
And nowhere in there does it say that.
That's what I was getting ready to say, and that kind of that feeds into, I think, a little bit of how you feel about losing time. Um, can you tell me a little bit about how you adjust? Because you have adjusted. I think I can tell you from my standpoint, I think you actually probably did a mental shift for yourself as to how you deal with how much time you lose.
It's frustrating that I can't remember what happens. It's very frustrating. It's frustrating, that there's a lot of things that are taken away from me. I feel like I can't drive right now. I can't just get up and go like I used to.
Your freedom is restricted. I'm sorry about that.
There's just a lot of things that I don't remember that I wish I could remember. So it's frustrating.
Does it help if I have a video of certain things? Does that help you, or does it just feed the fact that you can't remember on your own? Does that even help to trigger anything?
I've watched some of the videos that you've done, and I don't like watching them really.
Well, it's not joyful, I know. But does it help with your memory?
No.
Okay. So then we won't be doing any of that anymore then. The other thing, and we're winding up, but the other thing that I wanted to actually ask is, because of the year that you've had, and we're not, it's not going to be a jinx. It's just you're I think you're now equalized is what our hope is, and that's what our belief is, and that's what our faith dictates anyway. What do you want to do now?
Well, I want to try to get what I want to do, and work on my photography again, and work on my artwork again, and just move forward and try to start doing the stuff I was doing before all the seizures started to happen. Start living my life again and get back on track. There's one thing I wanted to add to your question about how my life and how I've been dealing with things. When I'm going through, when I have headaches, I have to make sure that I catch them right away with the medicine I have, because if I don't, then if it ramps up, then I can go into a seizure.
That's one of your triggers, isn't it?
Yes. So, but then I feel guilty. Several times I feel guilty when I tell you that I have a headache and I can't get out of bed, because we both know that if I do and it doesn't go away, I can have a seizure. So then I feel guilty because I can't help you with anything around the house. And that's something that I have to work through. Then I feel guilty also when I'm in the hospital after having a seizure, if I have to go to the hospital, or I have a seizure at home and I have one or two that I don't have to go to the hospital, but I have to recover at home. Like I sleep, it makes me sleep all day, or I'm just exhausted.
Yeah, it takes a toll on your body too, and as well as your mind.
Correct.
So yeah.
And then I feel guilty because I can't do anything because I have to rest. It
Mm-hmm.
just, people don't understand that how much it takes out of you.
Well,
It just,
when you say people, who are you referring to? Because I know how
well,
much it takes out of
you
you.
understand the people around you that deal with it on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
and your family or your loved ones that care for you, or loved ones that know somebody close to them that know what it's, they see it, they know what it entails, they understand. But the people that don't understand epilepsy or what it entails, they, it's just like if somebody has migraines or somebody has cluster headaches, those people that don't have that and they just have regular headaches, they don't understand the pain that somebody goes through when they have those. They just don't get it. They just think it's just, oh, you'll be fine. Just take an aspirin or take it, a Tylenol. I'm serious.
I know.
People just don't understand.
I'm not laughing at the context. I'm just laughing
So,
at the way you pinpoint exactly how they
right.
say it.
But so when you have a seizure, your whole body, your whole body just tenses up, your muscles, and just,
Oh yeah, you
it
do a full body
hurts.
flex. Yes, you
It
do.
hurts so bad.
I
And then
know.
you're just so exhausted.
But the thing too is that it hurts after it happens too, because you literally, from our observation, you are in a full on a full on body flex.
Right. And then from what I've seen from your videos is I'm jerking. So it just takes a toll on you, and it just takes me um it just takes me a hot minute to recover. So it so that I feel guilty for that. So that's something that I have to work through as well. So
Have a seat, Mom.
from what, and I know that I'm not the only one that feels guilty. I know I'm not the only one that
Yeah.
feels guilty.
Well,
so that's something that I'm sure that myself and other people go through.
well, what I would suggest and what I would say, because we have no idea how many people are going to see this, if any at all. But for my peace of mind for you is this. You feeling guilty, I hope, is not something that I have projected onto you, because quite frankly and quite honestly, there's no need for you to feel any guilt. There's no need for you to feel any other way but moving towards feeling better. But I get the way you are because you've been so independent, you've been so contributory, you've been so much the balance to me in our marital life, as well as our friendship, as well as our family. And just like I think I saw online, you know, uh, a ship is designed to take you somewhere, and our relationship is designed to take us through life. And the the guilt, I think, that you feel, I think it's misplaced, because I think it's an internal judgment on you. And it is understandable, because like anything else, you have to go through a process to get through something. So whatever that process is, that is the through that you're going to be in. And very simply put, eventually, I promise you'll get to a place where that even won't be on the blip anymore. And it won't. And here's why it won't: because your subconscious is going to help your conscious mind adjust and put things where they need to be for your mental betterment and your physical enhancement. And even though you don't drive right now, as we get up, the possibility exists that you could, and the possibility exists that you couldn't. If not, then you know what do your friends say? Passenger princess? I mean, as the restrictions loosen, because we still keep an eye on you, we were still mindful of that. Your triggers can be strobe lights, it can be certain smells, it can be noise, it can be even oxygen palpitations or whatever. What are those things that when they did that at your study, when they made you take deep breaths to actually trigger a seizure, that was the most ridiculously absurd thing I ever saw. And it's not something that was even manufactured. It was triggered by a manufactured method, but it wasn't something that was manufactured in, a put on, but it was definitely, literally, they were going down a list to ascertain what was your trigger and what wasn't your trigger. So as we wrap this up and get to the end of this conversation, um, we will prepare the other conversations for much lighter subjects, and we will definitely get this done, snipped and whatnot. Even though we did the live without it editing to the point that you even hear the dogs barking, but we've talked long enough. We've been here long enough, and I will end it this way. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being on, and thank you for understanding. Please stay in touch. Please stay connected. If you have questions, leave them in the comments below. If you have wants, needs to contact me, leave them in the comments below. I will check them. If you saw us on Facebook, you can DM me there. If you didn't, then you can find me on there. It's AllisonKnowz. Thank you. Have a good day. Stay well. Be kind. Good night.
That was long.